MAGA prophet predicts overthrow of U.S. government. That proves it. Or it proves nothing, but sure. It's a funny headline, but there are interesting things going on. You know, we can mock the idea of the MAGA prophet, and a lot of people are going to cringe and be like, sure, whatever, overthrow the government. But you do have establishment political forces saying the same thing. So why did I start this video off by saying MAGA prophet? I'm hoping that enough of these establishment individuals saw the segment and then laughed at the MAGA prophet saying overthrow the U.S. government, so that I can then point out that Alyssa Farah Griffin and Cassidy Hutchinson and Sarah Matthews have all basically said the exact same thing. So call the person the MAGA prophet, call him whatever you want. But his opinion, it's being espoused by your media darlings. But we will get started with the MAGA prophet to see what they may have heard. Pastor Julie Green, a self-proclaimed prophet known for her allegiance to the MAGA movement, has predicted the overthrow of the U.S. government. In her latest video posted by Ron Filipkowski, see, this is what I love. This guy, Ron Filipkowski, who is always being like, these MAGA guys are crazy. Y'all are saying the exact same thing, dude. Posted the video saying, my children, the time has come. The time that you've been waiting for, a reinstatement, a shift of power, a new government in control, an overthrow and a takeover in this nation from the hands of the wicked to the hands of the righteous. Sure. She prophesies a significant upheaval, suggesting a coup is about to be disrupted and annihilated, with those involved exposed and removed. Her prediction for 2024 is dramatic, hinting at an event that will shake you loose from the chains that bind you. The proclamation continues. Green's pattern of intertwining spiritual prophecy with political commentary. Blah, 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 blah. We get it. But hold on there a minute. From SCNR.com, SCNR. End of American democracy as we know it. Former Trump staffers warn of second presidential term. He knows how to use government better this time. Yeah, we're counting on that, by the way. The women, former Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews, former Special Assistant Cassidy Hutchinson, and former White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah Griffin sat with ABC's Jonathan Carlin, detailed their experience during the Capitol riot, blah, blah, blah. There's critical parts of history the public would not know, if not for Hutchinson's testimony, according to Griffin, who is now a host on ABC's The View. Hold on. Was she the lady that claimed Donald Trump phase shifted through the protective barrier to grab the steering wheel? She didn't literally say phase shifted, but was she the lady? I could be wrong, but I believe Cassidy Hutchinson. Let me just. I want to make sure I get this right. Yes, yeah. She's the one who said in 2022 that Trump lunged at Secret Service agents to grab the steering wheel on January 6th. Here it is. Former Meadows aide Cassidy Hutchinson said that Trump tried to do this. Okay. The vehicle Trump was riding in has a barrier between the driver and where the president is for security reasons, which means if Donald Trump lunged, perhaps she meant that he Looney Tunes-esque bashed his face into the wall. Duh. Or he phase shifted. Do you know what that means? It means he vibrated his hand so perfectly like the Flash that he moved through solid matter. Yeah. Or she lied. Yeah, you pick. Other senior officials witnessed but did not come forward. Blah, 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 blah. Matthews testified before the committee, said she resigned from her position. Blah, 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 blah. I don't say that. She says a second Trump term could fundamentally mean the end of American democracy as we know it. That's true, because we're not a democracy. What y'all need to understand about the end of American democracy is that it would be a good thing. A good thing. Let me explain. The woke, they're the multicultural democracy faction. We are the constitutional republicanist faction. It's funny how that works. Democrats versus Republicans, huh? Republicanism is not the Republican Party. Democracy is not the Democratic Party. But American democracy is this idea that majority controls everything. That's not what this country has ever been. We have that famous line: democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding on what's for lunch. A republic is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote. And it's more than that. A lot of people oversimplify it to mean that if you're armed, you can reject the vote of the people. No, it's that when the people vote to kill you, you can protect yourself because, they shouldn't. And so here we are. Democracy, as we know it, We see, this is the problem we've fallen into for quite some time. Those of us that believe in America, have American flags, fly the American flags, believe in this country. We kept hearing these people say it's the end of democracy. Donald Trump is the end of democracy. Let me explain this in a way that would simplify things. Okay. So imagine you are a planet called the Galactic Federal Headquarters. And it's 100% human beings of all different backgrounds, founded and established in the year 2250. Trust me, this is a simple way of explaining it. One day, a parasitic slime crash lands on the Galactic Federation homeworld and begins spreading and spreading and spreading. And then, when the slime is infecting and taking over people's brains, the people of the planet are like, hey, we're under attack. The slime monster people go, if they win, it will be the end of slime monsters. You see the point I'm trying to make here? Maybe that's a little too complicated. My point is, we're not a democracy. We've never been. The founding fathers rejected democracy. The woke cultists have been infecting and taking over institutions and then saying democracy over and over and over again until you started to believe the zombies were the actual government. So when the zombies are saying to you, if Donald Trump wins, zombies will be destroyed, I go, okay. When they say it's the end of our democracy, I'm like, yeah, okay, it is. Because I'm not all about democracy, never have been. And then they feign this shocked face. You oppose democracy? Yes, always. Democracy was never a good thing. We are a constitutional republic with democratically elected representatives. And there are problems there too, don't get me wrong. But this government created by the founding fathers is actually quite brilliant with 3 branches. You got the people's branch, the House. You got the states branch, the Senate. You got the Council of Elders, Supreme Court. And you got the executive, the king. And they're chosen by vote. Supreme Court is appointed and then confirmed by the other branches. This is brilliant. Never were we a nation of pure democracy. We're a union of states that agree to participate and share values. But my friends, Nikki Haley was asked a question. She was asked a question. What was the cause of the Civil War? And she gave probably the stupidest answer. I mean, I shouldn't say the stupidest because there's real stupid answers. I mean, you could be like, the aliens were stealing moon cheese. Okay, that's dumb. We get it. But in the realm of actual historical context, she gave a really dumb answer. She's like, the government was trying. She does this thing where she talks through her teeth without moving her teeth. The government was trying. I don't know how she does it. Take away our freedoms or whatever. Something like that. Okay, let's talk about the Civil War. What was the cause of the Civil War? Slavery? Next question. I know there's a lot of people who are like, no, Tim, you're completely wrong. The cause of the Civil War was insert a whole bunch of other issues that were grains of sand in the bigger picture. The cause of the war was very, very simply slavery. Why? There were new territories that were to be expanded, that were being to be admitted into the Union. And there was a question of whether or not they would allow slavery. So Bleeding Kansas is a fight between abolitionist and pro-slavery forces. Abraham Lincoln's like, we will not allow the expansion of slavery. At the time, I believe only 5% of Americans owned slaves. And so with this issue, there were many southern states that believed if Abraham Lincoln was elected, he would ban all slavery, and that would decimate the southern economy, which was dependent on this labor. In fact, I learned this a couple years ago. I was talking about how the cotton gin technology was doing away with it. It was actually wrong. The cotton gin actually expanded slavery. The cotton gin allowed for the utilization of cotton that typically was not used because it had clumps of seeds in it. And so then they needed more labor. Actually made slavery worse. How about that? Slavery, whether or not it would survive the 1860 election, was at issue. And before Abraham Lincoln even was inaugurated, 7 states seceded because they believed he was going to abolish slavery, which he ended up doing in a variety, sort of. The 14th Amendment, it was the amendments that did away with it. Constitution and stuff like that. But yeah. So were there no slavery in this country? There's no Civil War. That's it. Now, Nikki Haley said it was about government taking freedoms. There are other ways to describe this. With the issue of slavery at hand, you could argue that was the cause of secession. And then I'm going to be like, don't get so reductive. The core issue of slavery created very serious tensions in this country, which resulted in secession. and then conflict between the Union and the new Confederacy of States. You can argue that the reason the South was fighting was not slavery. The South, I'll put it this way. While slavery was an issue, the Southern states seceding resulted in the Union occupying Fort Sumter and refusing to leave. So what started the war? Oh, it was Union occupation of Southern states, right? The point is this. The ideological catalyst, of course, was the issue of slavery. But why did it come to fighting? You can argue, well, because of slavery, the states seceded. Because they seceded, the Union said, we're not backing off. But there you go. Fighting didn't need to start at any one of these points. Why did the war begin? Because Union soldiers refused to leave Fort Sumter. And then the South repelled Union forces that were trying to quash the rebellion. The big question being for many of these people, did they have a right to secede from a union? And once they started feeling like they were locked in and they couldn't leave, that's when you kind of want to go. So there's a lot of ways to describe what led to it. And then the question is, why did the South fight it? It wasn't slavery. Your average Confederate soldier was not fighting for slavery. That being said, the military leaders did, and political leaders absolutely were in this for slavery. They wrote down in their own constitution, their articles or whatever they were called, that they wanted slavery. But for your average person fighting, they were fighting for their homes because Union soldiers were coming in and trying to take over their governments. There you go. This is where we are today. Something similar is happening. Before the Civil War, there was a belief that we were not a country, but a union of states. They would say the United States are. Now they say the United States, they would say the United States is. It became one country. A dramatic cultural shift due to war. We could be facing that right now. The question is, who wins? If democracy, which has been expanding rapidly in the past few decades and taking over this country, succeeds, it will be the norm. They'll say this is the way it's always been. We've always been a democracy. There'll be no electoral college. Everything will be ruled upon by majority, and there will be serious oppression. Because you have to understand this. The reason why democracy is so bad. You think, maybe not you, but the average person thinks democracy means 51% of people will be in control of everything. Wrong! It means that probably like 3% will be in control of everything. And you may be saying, but no, that's not democracy, Tim. You're wrong. No, it's true. I'll explain. It comes to a vote. How many of you would like to have pizza for dinner? You've got 20 people. 11 say, we would like to have pizza for dinner. The other 9 say, gee golly, I guess we have to have pizza because democracy rules. Now you may be saying, but see, that's how it works. The majority will decide. And then someone says, and what shall we drink with our pizza? Uh-oh. 9 of the people who voted for pizza say hot tea. 9 of the people who voted against, the 9 people who voted against pizza say Coca-Cola. You now have 2 people who get to decide what they will end up drinking with the food. Now it's going to be tea or Coke. And it could be neither. My point is this. If you have 1 million factions of people, the idea that 596, let's just say 600,000 of them are going to agree on 100% everything. The reality is that when it comes to votes on a bunch of different issues, people have different views. So while 11 people out of 20 may say yes to pizza, only 10 of them may actually say yes to Coca-Cola. In which case, they say, wait, I don't want to eat pizza with hot tea. And then what happens? Nobody's happy. But there's one guy who's really like, I wanted pizza and hot tea. This is perfect for me. And then everyone's complaining like, how did it end up this way? Because there's different issues to be voted on. This is one of the problems with democracy people don't talk about. Sure, it's bad when 51% oppress 49%. But what happens when there's 100 issues to be voted on? The size of the flag. What's for dinner? What's for breakfast? What's for lunch? How big's the house? And no one agrees 100%. So you'll end up with a multitude of factions forming coalitions, and you get something really broken and weird, where you end up having pepperoni pizza with Earl Grey hot instead of, I don't know, like water or iced tea. You'll end up with someone being like, let's try a better one. What do we want for dessert? Ice cream? 11 out of 10 say yes to ice cream. And then they say, okay, and what should we put on our ice cream? Well, guess what? The other people who didn't want to have ice cream They wanted to have port wine with mixed veggies. A light, I wouldn't call it dessert, but maybe they wanted to have a port wine. Okay. Well, we're pouring the port wine into the ice cream. That's democracy. Or you're drinking it with ice cream, which is not so bad. My point is, not everyone's going to agree. 51% will not agree on everything. There will be a multitude of factions. And ultimately what happens is, how many people get exactly what they want in democracy? 2 or 3%. One guy who likes putting spinach in his ice cream and pouring wine over it while eating pepperoni pizza or making a cone with pepperoni pizza. That's the one guy. And everyone else is like, how did we get to this point? The majority of people don't like this. I'll give you a better example. Now that I'll get away from the stupid analogies. I'll give you the example of Egypt. When they were voting for a politician, you had 10 political factions, and they all voted democracy. So it doesn't always work perfectly. The largest voting faction, around 20% was Muslim Brotherhood. So they got a Muslim Brotherhood president, and people were upset about it. They didn't want that. But guess what? They were all split into different factions. So they had another revolution. And when the same thing happened, they were like, nah, military came in and just got rid of them. That's the problem with democracy. This is what y'all need to understand about where we're headed. The end of American democracy as we know it? Whatever, man. There are these zombie swamp monster cultists who are scared that we're purging them because we will restore the American constitutional republic. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.